Hare Krishna. So we'd like to welcome everyone to our Sunday Krishna book reading to Srila Prabhupada. And as we always do, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnuvadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavari Paskacha Deshatarne. And to each other, Vanchakalpadrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we'd like to welcome everyone online. You can note the English subtitles at the bottom of the page, and that will help you to follow along. This week we're starting chapter 75, Why Duryodhana Felt Insulted at the End of the Rajasuya Sacrifice. King Yudhisthira was known as Ajata Satru, or a person who had no enemy. Therefore, when all the men, demigods, kings, sages, and saints saw the successful termination of the Rajasuya Yajna performed by King Yudhisthira, they were very happy. That Duryodhana alone was unhappy was astonishing to Maharaj Parikshit, and therefore he requested Shukadeva Goswami to explain this. Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear King Parikshit, your grandfather King Yudhisthira was a great soul. His congenial disposition attracted everyone to be his friend, and therefore he was known as Ajata Satru, one who never created an enemy. He engaged all the members of the Kuru dynasty in taking charge of different departments for the management of the Rajasuya sacrifice. For example, Bhimashena was put in charge of the kitchen department, Duryodhana in charge of the treasury department, Sahadev in charge of the reception department, Nakula in charge of the supply department, and Arjuna in charge of looking after the comforts of the elderly persons. The most astonishing feature was that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, took charge of washing the feet of all the incoming guests. The queen, the goddess of fortune, Draupadi, was in charge of administering the distribution of food, and because Karna was famous for giving charity, he was put in charge of the charity department. In this way, Satyaki, Vikarma, Hardikya, Vidura, Santardana, and Burishava, the son of Bahika, were all engaged in different departments for managing the affairs of the Rajasuya sacrifice. They were all so bound in loving affection for King Yudhisthira that they simply wanted to please him. You read a paragraph.
After Shishupala died, by the mercy of Lord Krishna, and merged into the spiritual existence, and after the end of the Rajasuya Yajna, when all the friends, guests, and well-wishers had been fully honored and rewarded, King Yudhisthira went to bathe in the Ganges. The city of Hastinapura stands today on the bank of the Yamuna River, and the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam that King Yudhisthira went to the bath in the Ganges indicates, therefore, that during the time of the Pandavas, the river Yamuna was also known as the Ganges. While the king was taking the Avabhrita bath, different musical instruments vibrated such as mridangas, conch shells, pavana drums, kettle drums, and bugles. Huh? Bugles. And the ankle bells of the dancing girls, kettle drums and bugles, and and the ankle bells of the dancing girls jingled. Many groups of professional singers sung as venas, flutes, gongs, and cymbals were played, and thus a tremulous sound vibrate in the sky. The princely guests from the many kingdoms like Srinjaya, Cambodia, Kuru, Kikaya, and Koshala were present with their different flags and gorgeously decorated elephants, chariots, horses, and soldiers. All of them passed in a procession with King Yudhishthira in the forefront. The executive members who had performed the sacrifice, the priests, religious ministers, and brahmanas, all loudly chanted the Vedic hymns. The demigods and the inhabitants of Pitriloka and Gandharva-loka, as well as many sages, showered flowers from the sky. The men and women of Hastinapura or Indraprastha, their bodies smeared with scent and floral oils, were nicely dressed in colorful garments and decorated with garlands, jewels, and ornaments. Enjoying the ceremony, they threw on the another liquid substances like water, oil, milk, butter, and yogurt. Some even smeared these on each other bodies. In this way, they enjoyed the occasion. Please continue.
Where we finish?
They enjoyed the occasion.
Okay. Okay. The professional prostitutes jubilantly smeared this liquid substance on the bodies of the men, and the men reciprocated in the same way. All the liquid substances had been mixed with turmeric and saffron, and their colors was illustrious yellow. In order to observe the great ceremony, many wives of demigods had come in different airplanes, and they were visible in the sky. Similarly, the queens of the royal family, gorgeously decorated and surrounded by bodyguards, arrived on different palanquins. During this time, Lord Krishna, the material cousin of the Pandavas, and his special friend Arjun were both throwing the liquid substance on the bodies of the queens. The queens became bashful, but at the same time their beautiful smiling brightened their faces because of the liquids thrown on their bodies. The saris covering them became completely wet. The different parts of their beautiful bodies, particularly their breasts and their waists, became partially visible because of the wet cloth. The queens brought buckets of the same liquid substance and with syringes sprinkled them on the bodies of their brothers-in-law. As they engaged in such jubilant activities, their hair fell loose, and the flowers decorating their bodies began to fall. While Lord Krishna, Arjuna, and the queens were thus engaged in these jubilant activities, persons who were not clear in heart were agitated by lustful desires. In other words, such behavior between pure males and females is enjoyable, but it makes persons who are materially contaminated become lustful.
King Yudhishthir, in a gorgeous chariot yoked to excellent horses, was present there along with his queens, including Draupadi, and their features were so beautiful that it appeared as if the great Rajasuya sacrifice were standing there in person, along with the different functions of the sacrifice. Following the Rajasuya sacrifice, there was the Vedic ritualistic duty known as Patni Samyaj. This sacrifice, which one performs along with one's wife, was also duly conducted by the priest of King Yudhishthir. As Queen Draupadi and King Yudhishthir were taking their Amrit bath, the citizens of Hastinapur as well as the demigods began to beat on drums and blow trumpets out of feeling of happiness. And there was a shower of flowers from the sky. When the king and the queen finished their bath in the Ganges, all the other citizens, consisting of all the varnas or castes, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, took their bath in the Ganges. Bathing in the Ganges is recommended in the Vedic literature because by such bathing one is freed from all sinful reactions. This is still current in India, especially at particular auspicious moments. At such times, millions of people bathe in the Ganges.
After taking his bath, King Yudhishthir dressed in a new silken cloth and wrapper and decorated himself with valuable jewelry. The king not only dressed himself and decorated himself, but also gave clothing and ornaments to all the priests and the others who had participated in the yajnas. In this way he worshipped them all. He constantly worshipped his friends, his family members, his relatives, his well-wishers, and everyone present. And because he was a Vaishnava, a great devotee of Lord Narayan, he knew how to treat everyone well. The Mayavadi philosophers' endeavor to see everyone as God is an artificial attempt at interest, at oneness, but a Vaishnava or a devotee of Lord Narayan sees every living entity as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a Vaishnava's treatment of other living entities is on the absolute platform. As one cannot treat one part of his body differently from another part because they all belong to the same body, a Vaishnava does not see a human being as distinct from an animal because in both he sees the soul and the supersoul seated together.
When everyone was refreshed after bathing and was dressed in silken clothing, with jeweled earrings, flower garlands, turbans, long wrappers, and pearl necklaces, they looked altogether like the demigods from heaven. This was especially true of the women, who were very nicely dressed. Each wore a golden belt around the waist. They were all smiling, with spots of the tilak and curling hair scattered here and there. This combination was very attractive. Those persons who had participated in the Rajasuya sacrifice, including the most cultured priests, the Brahmanas who had assisted The citizens of all the Varnas and the kings, demigods, sages, saints, and citizens of Pitraloka were all very much satisfied by the dealings of King Yudhishthira, and at the end they happily departed for their residences. While returning to their homes, they talked of the dealings of King Yudhishthira, and even after continuous talk of his greatness, they were not satiated. Just as one may drink nectar over and over again and never be satisfied. After the departure of all the others, Maharaj Yudhishthira restrained the inner circle of his friends, including Lord Krishna, not allowing them to leave. Lord Krishna could not refuse the request of the king. Krishna therefore sent back all the heroes of the Yadu dynasty, Samba and others. All of them returned to Dwarka, and Lord Krishna personally remained to give pleasure to the king.
In the material world, everyone has a particular type of desire to be fulfilled, but one is never able to fulfill his desires to his full satisfaction. But King Yudhishthira, because of his unflinching devotion to Krishna, could fulfill all his desires successfully by the performance of the Rajasuya sacrifice. From the description of the Rajasuya Yagya, such a function appears to be a great ocean of opulent desires. Such an ocean is not possible for an ordinary man to cross. Nevertheless, by the grace of Lord Krishna, King Yudhishthira was able to cross it very easily. But thus he became freed from all anxieties.
When Duryodhana saw that Maharaj Yudhishthira had become very famous after performing the Rajasuya Yajna and was fully satisfied in every respect, he began to burn with the fire and envy because his mind was always poisonous. For one thing, he invaded the imperial palace constructed by the demon Maya of the Pandavas. The palace was excellent in its puzzling artistic workmanship and was befitting the position of great princes, kings, and leaders of the demons. In that great palace, the Pandavas lived with their family members, and Queen Draupadi served her husbands very peacefully. And because in those days Lord Krishna was also there, the palace was also decorated by his thousands of queens. When the queens, with their heavy breasts and thin waists, moved within the palace, and their ankle bells rang very melodiously with their movement, the whole palace appeared more opulent than the heavenly kingdom, because a portion of their breasts was sprinkled with saffron powder. The pearl necklace on their breasts appeared reddish with their beautiful earrings and flowing hair. The queens appeared very attractive. After seeing such many beauties in the palace of King Yudhishthira, Duryodhana was envious. He was especially envious and lustful upon seeing the beauty of Draupadi because he had cherished a special attraction for her from the very beginning of her marriage with the Pandavas. In the marriage selection assembly of Draupadi, Duryodhana had also been present, and along with their princess he had been very much captivated by the beauty of Draupadi, but he had failed to achieve her.
Once upon a time, King Yudhishthira was sitting on his golden throne in the palace constructed by the demon Maya. His 4 brothers and other relatives, as well as his great well-wisher Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were present. And the material opulence of King Yudhishthira seemed no less than that of Lord Brahma. When he was sitting on the throne, surrounded by his friends, and the reciters were offering prayers to him in the form of nice songs, Duryodhan came to the palace with his younger brothers. Duryodhan was decorated with a helmet and he carried a sword in his hand. He was always in the envious and angry mood, and therefore, on a slight provocation, he spoke sharply with the doorkeepers and became angry. By the craftsmanship of the demon Maya, the palace was so decorated in different places that one who did not know the tricks considered water to be land and land to be water. Duryodhan was illusioned by this craftsmanship, and when crossing water, thinking it to be land, he fell in. When Duryodhan, out of his foolishness, had thus fallen, the queens enjoyed the incident by laughing. King Yudhishthir could understand the feelings of Duryodhan, and he tried to restrain the queens, but Lord Krishna indicated that King Yudhishthir could not restrain them from enjoying the incident. Krishna desired that Duryodhana be fooled in that way and that all of them enjoy his foolish behavior. When everyone laughed, Duryodhan felt very insulted and his bodily hair stood up in anger. Being thus insulted, he immediately left the palace, bowing his head. He was silent and did not protest. When Duryodhan left in such an angry mood, everyone regretted the incident, and King Yudhishthir also was very sorry. But despite all these occurrences, Krishna was silent. He did not say anything against or in favor of the incident. It appeared that Duryodhan had been put into illusion by the supreme will of Lord Krishna. And this was the beginning of the enmity between the two sects of the Kuru dynasty. This appeared to be part of Krishna's plan in his mission to decrease the burden of the world.
Keep going.
King Parikshit had inquired from Sukdev Goswami why Duryodhan was not satisfied after the termination of the great Rajasuya sacrifice, and thus it was explained by Sukdev Goswami. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 75th chapter of Krishna, why Duryodhan felt insulted at the end of the Rajasuya sacrifice.
Chapter 76, the battle between Salva and members of the Yadu dynasty. While Shukadeva Goswami was narrating various activities of Lord Krishna in playing the role of an ordinary human being, he also narrated the history of the battle between the dynasty of Yadu and a demon of the name Shalva, who had managed to possess a wonderful airship named Shobha. King Shalva was a great friend of Sishupal's. When Sishupal went to marry Rukmini, Shalva was one of the members of the bridegroom's party. In the fight between the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty and the kings of the opposite side, Shalva was defeated by the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. But despite his defeat, he made a promise before all the kings that he would in the future rid the whole world of all the members of the Yadu dynasty. Since his defeat in the fight during the marriage of Rukmini, he had maintained within himself an unforgettable envy of Lord Krishna, and he was in fact a fool because he had promised to kill Krishna.
Usually, such foolish demons take shelter of a demigod like Lord Shiva to execute their ulterior plans. And so, in order to get strength, Shalva took refuge at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva. He underwent a severe type of austerity during which he would eat no more than a handful of ashes daily. Lord Shiva, the husband of Parvati, is generally very merciful, and he is very quickly satisfied if someone undertakes severe austerities to please him. So, after continued austerities by Shalva for 1 year, Lord Shiva became pleased with him and asked him to beg for the fulfillment of his desire. Shalva begged from the Lord Shiva the gift of an airplane which would be so strong that it could not be destroyed by any demigod, demon, human being, Gandharva or Naga, or even by Rakshasa. Moreover, he desired that the airplane be able to fly anywhere and everywhere he would like to pilot it, and he is specifically very dangerous and fearful to the dynasty of the Yadus. Lord Shiva immediately agreed to give him the benediction, and Shalva took the help of the demon Maya to manufacture this iron airplane, which was so strong and formidable that no one could crash it. It was a very big machine, almost like a big city, and it could fly so high and at such a great speed that it was almost impossible to see. So there was no question of attacking it. It appeared to be almost covered with darkness, yet the pilot could fly it anywhere and everywhere. Having acquired such a wonderful airplane, Shalva flew it to the city of Dwarka because his main purpose in obtaining the airplane was to attack the city of the Yadus, towards whom he maintained a constant feeling of animosity.
Shalva thus attacked the city of Dwaraka from the sky, and he also surrounded the city by a large number of infantry. The soldiers on the surface attacked the beautiful spots of the city. They began to destroy the nice parks, the city gates, the palaces and skyscraper houses, the high wall around the city, and the beautiful spots where people would gather for recreation. While the soldiers attacked on the surface, the airplane began to drop big slabs of stone, tree trunks, thunderbolts, poisonous snakes, and many other dangerous things. Shalva also managed to create such a strong whirlwind with the city that all the Dwaraka became dark because of the dust that covered the sky. The airplane occupied by Shalva put the entire city of Dwaraka into distress equal to that caused on the earth long and by the disturbing activities of Tripurasura. Then inhabitants of Dwarakapuri became so harassed that they were peaceful for even a moment.
The great heroes of Dwaraka city, headed by commanders such as Pradimna, counterattacked the soldiers on airplane of Salo when he saw the extreme distress of the citizens. Pradimna immediately arranged his soldiers and personally got up on his chariot and encouraging the citizens by assuring safety. Following his command, many warriors like Satyaki, Charudesna, and Shamba, all young brothers of Pradimna as well as Akrura, Kritabarma, Bhanuvinda, Gada, Sukha, and Sharan, all came out the city to fight with Salo. All of them were Maharathis, great warriors able to fight with the thousands of men. All were fully equipped with necessary weapons and assisted by hundreds and thousands of charioteers, elephants, horses, and infantry soldiers. Fierce fighting began between the two parties, exactly like that formerly carried on between the demigods and the demons. The fighting was severe, and whoever observed the fierce nature of the fight felt his bodily hairs stand on end.
Pradyumna immediately counteracted the mystic demonstration occasioned by the airplane of Salva, the king of Sauva. By the mystic power of the airplane, Salva had created a darkness as dense as night, but Pradyumna all of a sudden appeared like the rising sun. As with the rising of the sun, the darkness of night is immediately dissipated. With the appearance of Pradyumna, the power exhibited by Salva became null and void. Each of Pradyumna's arrows had a golden feather at the end, and the shaft was fitted with a sharp iron head. By releasing 25 such arrows, Pradyumna severely injured Salva's commander in chief. He then released another 100 arrows towards the body of Salva. After this, he pierced each and every soldier by releasing one arrow. He killed the chariot drivers by firing 10 arrows at each one of them. And he killed the carriers like the horses and elephants by releasing 3 arrows direct towards each one. When everyone present on the battlefield saw this wonderful feat of Pradyumna's, the great fighters on both sides praised his act of chivalry.
But still, the airplane occupied by Shalva was very mysterious. It was so extraordinary that sometimes many airplanes would appear to be in the sky, and sometimes there were apparently none. Sometimes the plane was visible, and sometimes not visible, and the warriors of the Yadu dynasty were puzzled about the whereabouts of the peculiar airplane. Sometimes they would see the airplane on the ground, sometimes flying in the sky, sometimes resting on the peak of a hill, and sometimes floating on the water. The wonderful airplane flew in the sky like a whirling firebrand. It was not steady even for a moment. But despite the mysterious maneuvering of the airplane, the commanders and soldiers of the Yadu dynasty would immediately rush toward Salva wherever he was present with his airplane and soldiers. The arrows released by the dynasty of the Yadus were as brilliant as the sun and as dangerous as the tongues of serpents. All the soldiers fighting on behalf of Shalva soon became distressed by the incessant release of arrows upon them by the heroes of the Yadu dynasty, and Shalva himself became unconscious from the attack of these arrows.
The soldiers fighting on behalf of the Shalva were also very strong, and the release of the arrows also harassed the heroes of the Yadu dynasty. But still, the Yadus were so strong and determined that they did not move from their strategic position. The heroes of the Yadu dynasties were determined either to die on the battlefield or to gain victory. They were confident that if they died in the fighting, they would attain a heavenly planet, and if they came out victorious, they would enjoy the world. The name of Shalva's commander-in-chief was Duman. He was very powerful, and although bitten by 25 of the Pradyumna's arrows, he suddenly attacked Pradyumna with his fierce club and struck him so strongly that Pradyumna became unconscious. Immediately there was a roaring, "Now he is dead, now he is dead." The force of the club on Pradyumna's chest was very severe, and it appeared as though his chest had been torn asunder.
Pradyumna's chariot was being driven by the son of Daruka. According to Vedic military principles, the chariot driver and the hero on the chariot must cooperate during the fighting. As such, because it was the duty of the chariot driver to take care of the hero on the chariot during the dangerous and precarious fighting. Daruka's son removed Pradyumna from the battlefield. 2 hours later, in a quiet place, Pradyumna regained consciousness, and when he saw that he was in a place other than the battlefield, he addressed the charioteer and condemned him.
Oh, you have done the most abominable act. Why have you removed from me from the battlefield? My dear charioteer, I have never heard that any of our family members was ever removed from the battlefield. None of them left the battlefield while fighting. By this removal you have overburdened me with a great defamation. It will be said that left the battlefield while fighting was going on. My dear charioteer, I must accuse you. You are a coward and emasculator. Tell me, how can I go before my uncle Balaram and my father Krishna? And what shall I say before them? Everyone will talk about me and say that I fled from the fighting place, and if they inquire from me about this, what will be my reply? My sister in law will play jokes upon me with sarcastic words. My dear hero, how have you become such a coward? How have you become an Evans? How have you become so low in the eyes of fighters who opposite you? I think, my dear charioteer, that you have committed a great offense by removing me from the battlefield.
The charioteer of Pradyumna replied, My dear sir, I wish a long life for you. I think that I did nothing wrong, for it is the duty of the charioteer to help the fighter in the chariot when he is in a precarious condition. My dear sir, you are completely competent in the battlefield, but it is the duty of the charioteer and the warrior to protect each other in a precarious condition. I was completely aware of the regulative principles of fighting, and I did my duty. The enemy all of a sudden struck you with his club so severely that you lost consciousness. You were in a dangerous position, surrounded by your enemies. Therefore, I was obliged to act as I did. Thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of the 76th chapter of Krishna, the battle between Salva and the members of the Yadu dynasty. Hari Bol.
Chapter 77, The Deliverance of Salva. After talking with his charioteer, the son of Daruka, Pradyumna could understand the real circumstances. Therefore, he refreshed himself by washing his mouth and hands, and after arming himself properly with bows and arrows, he asked his charioteer to take him near the place where Salva's commander-in-chief was standing. During the short absence of Pradyumna from the battlefield, Dyuman, Salva's commander-in-chief, had been taking over the positions of the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. Appearing on the battlefield, Pradyumna immediately stopped him and, smiling, shot 8 arrows at him. With 4 arrows, he killed Dyuman's 4 horses, and with 1 arrow, his chariot driver. With another arrow, he cut his bow in 2. With another, he cut his flags to pieces. And with the last, he severed his head from his body.
You might have read that.
On the other fronts, heroes like Gadha, Satyaki, and Sambha were killing the soldiers of Salva. The soldiers staying with Salva in the airplane were also killed in the fighting, and they fell into the ocean. Each party began to strike the opposite party very severely in a fierce, dangerous battle that continued for 27 days without stopping.
While the fight was going on in the city of Dwarka, Krishna was staying at Indraprastha with the Pandavas and King Yudhisthira. This fighting with Salva took place after the Rajasuya sacrifice the Rajasuya Yajna had been performed by King Yudhisthira, and after the killing of Shishupal. When Lord Krishna understood that there was great danger in the city of Dwarka, he took permission from the elder members of the Pandava family, especially from his aunt Kunti Devi, and started immediately for Dwarka.
Lord Krishna began to think that while he was staying in Hastinapura with Balaram after the killing of Shishupal's men must have attacked Dwarka. On reaching Dwarka, Lord Krishna saw that the whole city was greatly endangered. He placed Balaramji in a strategic position for the protection of the city, and he himself asked his charioteer Daruka to prepare to start. He said, Daruka, please immediately take me to where Shalva is staying. You may know that this Shalva is a very powerful, mysterious man. Don't fear him in the least. As soon as he got his orders from Lord Krishna, Daruka had him seated on the chariot and drove very quickly towards Shalva.
The chariot of Lord Krishna was marked with the flag bearing the insignia of Garuda. And as soon as the soldiers and warriors of the Yadu dynasty saw the flag, they could understand that Lord Krishna was on the battlefield. But by this time, almost all the soldiers of Shalva had been killed. But when Shalva saw that Krishna had come to the battlefield, he released a great, powerful weapon, which flew through the sky with a roaring sound like a great meteor. It was so bright that the whole sky was lit up its presence. But as soon as Lord Krishna appeared, he tore the great weapon into hundreds and thousands of pieces by releasing his own arrow.
Lord Krishna struck Salo with 16 arrows, and with showers of arrows he overpowered the airplane just as the sun, its clear sky, overpowers the whole sky by an unlimited number of molecules of sunshine. Salo struck a severe blow to Krishna's left side, where the Lord carried his bows, sarang, and as a result, the sarang bow fell from Lord Krishna's hand. This dropping of the bow was indeed wonderful. Great personalities and demigods who were observing the fighting between Salo and Krishna were most perturbed by this, and they exclaimed, Alas, alas! Salo, though that he had become victorious, and with a roaring sound he addressed Lord Krishna as follows: You rascal, Krishna, you kidnapped Rukmini forcibly, even in our presence. You baffled my friend Shishupal and married Rukmini yourself, and in the great assembly at King Yudhishthira's Rajasuya Yajna, while my friend Shishupal was little absent-minded, you took an opportunity to kill him. Everyone thinks that you are a great fighter and that no one can conquer you. So now you will have to prove your strength. I think that if you stand before me any longer with my sharp arrows, I shall send you to a place where from you will never return.
To this, Lord Krishna replied, Foolish Salve, you are talking nonsensically. You do not know that the moment of death is already upon your head. Actually, heroes do not talk much. They prove their prowess by practical exhibition of chivalrous activities. After saying this, Lord Krishna in great anger struck Salva on the collarbone with his club so severely that Salva began to vomit blood and tremble as if he were going to collapse from severe cold. Before Krishna was able to strike him again, however, Salva became invisible by his mystic power.
Within a few moments, a mysterious, unknown man came before Lord Krishna. Crying loudly, he bowed down at the Lord's lotus feet and said to him, "Since you are the most beloved son of your father Vasudev, your mother Devki has sent me to inform you of the unfortunate news that Salva has arrested your father and taken him away by force, just as a butcher mercilessly takes away an animal." When Lord Krishna heard this unfortunate news from the unknown man, he at first became most perturbed, just like an ordinary human being. His face showed signs of grief, and he began to cry in a piteous tone. "How could that happen? My brother, Lord Balram, is there, and it is impossible for anyone to conquer Balramji. He is in charge of Dwarka city, and I know he is always alert. How could Salva possibly enter the city and arrest my father in that way? Whatever Salva may be, his power is limited. So how could it be possible that he has conquered the strength of Balramji and taken away my father, arresting him as described by this man? Alas, destiny is, after all, very powerful."
Just read that.
While Sri Krishna was thinking like this, Salva brought before him in custody a man exactly resembling Vasudev, his father. They were all creations of the mystic power of Salva.
Shalva addressed Krishna. "You rascal Krishna, look, this is your father who has begotten you and by whose mercy you are still living. Now just see how I kill your father. If you have any strength, try to save him." The mystic juggler Salva, speaking in this way before Lord Krishna, immediately immediately cut off the head of the false Vasudev. Then, without hesitation, he took away the dead body and got into his airplane. Lord Krishna is the self-sufficient Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet because he was playing the role of a human being, he became very depressed for a moment, as if he had actually lost his father. But at the next moment, he could understand that the arrest and killing of his father were demonstrations of the mystic powers which Salva had learned from the demon Maya. Coming to his right consciousness, he could see that there was no messenger and no head of his father, but that Shalva had left in his airplane, which was flying in the sky. He then began to think of slaying Salva.
Krishna's reaction is a controversial point among great authorities and saintly persons. How could Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all power and knowledge, be bewildered in such a way? Lamentation, agreement, and bewilderment are characteristics of conditioned souls. But how can such things affect the persons of the Supreme, who is full of knowledge, power, and all opulence? Actually, it is not at all possible that Lord Krishna was misled by the mystic jugglery of Shalva. He was displaying his pastime in playing the role of a human being. Great saintly persons and sages who are engaged in the devotional service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and who have thus achieved the greatest perfection of self-realization have transcended the bewilderments of the bodily concept of life. Lord Krishna is the ultimate goal of life for such saintly persons. How then could Krishna have been bewildered by the mystic jugglery of Shalva? The conclusion is that Lord Krishna's bewilderment was another appearance of his supreme personality. When Shalva thought that Krishna had been bewildered by his mystic representations, he became encouraged and began to attack the Lord with greater strength and energy by showering volleys of arrows upon him.
But enthusiasm of Shalva can be compared to the speedy march of moth into a fire. Lord Krishna, by hurling his arrows with unfathomable strength, inquired Shalva, whose armor, bow, and jeweled helmet all scarred in peace. With a crushing blow from Krishna's club, Shalva's wonderful airplane burst into pieces and fell into the sea. Shalva was very careful, and instead of crashing with the airplane, he managed to jump into the land. He again rushed toward Krishna. When Shalva ran swiftly to attack Krishna with his club, Lord Krishna cut off his hand, which fell into the ground with the club. Finally, deciding to kill him, the Lord took up his wonderful disc, which shone like the brilliant sun in the time of the dissolution of the material creation. When Lord Shri Krishna stood up with his disc to kill Shalva, he appeared just like a mountain with the red sun rising over it. Lord Krishna then cut off Shalva's head, and the head with its earring and helmet fell to the ground. Shalva was thus killed in the same way that Vritrasura was killed by Indra, the king of heaven.
Complete.
When Shalva was killed, all his soldiers and followers cried, "Alas, alas!" While Shalva's men were done crying, the demigods from the heavenly planets showered flowers on the Krishna and announced their victory by beating drums and blowing bugles. At that very moment, other friends of Shishupala, such as Dantavakra, appeared on the scene to fight with Krishna and avenge the death of Shishupala and others. Then Dantavakra appeared before Lord Krishna. He is extremely angry. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 77th chapter of Krishna, the deliverance of Shalva.
Haribol. Chapter 78. The killing of Dantavakra, Vidurath, and Romaharsha. After the demise of Sisupal, Salo and Poundrak, a foolish demoniac king of the name of Dantavakra, wanted to kill Krishna to avenge the death of his friend Salo. He became so agitated that he appeared on the battlefield without the proper arms and ammunition and without even a chariot. His only weapon was his great anger, which was red hot. He carried only a club in his hand, but he was so powerful that when he moved, everyone felt the earth tremble. When Lord Krishna saw him approaching in a very heroic mode, he immediately got down from his chariot. From it was a rule of military etiquette that fighting should take place only between equals. Knowing that Dantabakra was all alone and armed with only a club, Lord Krishna responded similarly and prepared himself by taking his club in his hand. When Krishna appeared before him, Dantabakra heroic match was immediately stopped, just as the great furious waves of the ocean are stopped by the beach.
At that time, Dantvakra, who was the king of Karusha, stood firmly with his club and spoke to Lord Krishna as follows: It is a great pleasure and fortunate opportunity, Krishna, that we are seeing each other face to face. My dear Krishna, after all, you are my material cousin, and I should not kill you in this way. But unfortunately, you have committed a great mistake by killing my friend Salva. Moreover, you are not satisfied by killing my friend. I know that you want to kill me also. Because of your determination, I must kill you by tearing you to pieces with my club. Krishna, although you are my relative, you are foolish. You are you are our greatest enemy, so I must kill you. Today, just as a person removes a boil on his body by a surgical operation, I am always very much obliged to my friends, and I therefore consider myself indebted to my dear friend Salva. I can liquidate my indebtedness to him only by killing you.
As the caretaker of an elephant tries to control the animal by striking it with his trident, Tantvakra tried to control Krishna simply by speaking strong words. After finishing his vituperation, he struck Krishna on the head with his club and made a roaring sound like a lion. But Krishna, although struck strongly by the club of the Dantvakra, he did not move even an inch, nor did he feel any pain. Taking his Kaumodaki club and moving very skillfully, Krishna struck Dantuvakra's chest so fiercely that Dantuvakra's heart split in twain. As a result, Dantvakra began to vomit blood. His hair scattered, and he fell to the ground, spreading his hands and legs. Within only a few minutes, all that remained of Dantvakra was a dead body on the ground. After the death of Dantvakra, just as the time of Shishupal's death, in the presence of all the persons standing there, a small particle of spiritual effulgence came out of the demon's body and very wonderfully merged into the body of Lord Krishna.
Dantavakra had a brother named Vidurata who was overwhelmed with grief at Dantavakra's death. Out of grief and anger, Vidurata was breathing very heavily, and just to avenge the death of his brother, he appeared before Lord Krishna with a sword and shield in his hands. He wanted to kill Krishna immediately. When Lord Krishna understood that Vidurata was looking for the opportunity to strike him with his sword, he employed his Sudarshan Chakra, his razor-sharp disc, and without delay cut off Vidurata's head with its helmet and earrings.
In this way, after killing Shalva and destroying his wonderful airplane, and then killing Dantavakra and Vidurata, Lord Krishna at last entered his city Dwarka. It would not have been possible for anyone but Krishna to kill these great heroes, and therefore all the demigods from heaven and the human beings on the surface of the globe were glorifying him. Great sages and ascetics, the denizens of the Siddha and Gandharva planet, the denizens known as the Vidyadharas, Vasukis, and the Mahangas, the beautiful angels, the inhabitants of Pitraloka, the Yakshas, the Kinnaras, and the Charanas, and all showered flowers upon him and sang songs of his victory in great jubilation. Decorating this entire city with festivity, the citizens of Dwarka held a great celebration, and when Lord Krishna passed to the city, all the members of the Vrishni dynasty and the heroes of the Yadu dynasty followed him with great respect. These are some of the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, the master of all mystic power and the lord of all cosmetic manifestations. Those who are fools, who are like animals, sometimes think that Krishna is defeated, but factually he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one can defeat him. He always remains victorious over everyone. He alone is God and all others are his subservient order carriers.
Haribol, so that concludes our 1 hour of reading Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. We're so very grateful, Srila Prabhupada, that you let us come and read to you. And as we always do, let us offer respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskachade Shatarane. And to each other, Vansha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Pachita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Krishna Book, Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,